Alright, we got 2015 Chevrolet Impala. So we lost communication with the TCM originally. I had codes in multiple modules talking about it, and it was stuck in limp mode. So I've got the scan reports documented for that, and I have checked powers and grounds at the connector already. Powers and signal grounds, I should say. So I'm in transmission data here, and this is some direction that I was able to use, but it's also, there's a couple things we can use here to move forward for our next step, and I will get into the data. The next step is not to put a, well, not to put a TECHM in here. It is to do more testing. So to do more testing here, my first thing is I started checking all the wires. I checked the wire that's in front here going up in front. I wiggled around a bunch of these wires here, this harness here. Let me shine the light on the situation. But then I was wiggling around all the other harnesses with a tie-in up here as well. And then I got down to the blue connector. And if you hear what I hear, it's hard to catch this both. I might have to try to do this twice. So what I'll do is I'll go for the scan tool data first. Now I lose communication with the TCM. What I'm doing is lightly lifting up on the connector, and you can probably hear this. Let's see if you can hear it. And I go, and I'm gonna 1, 2, and 3, and I'm gonna pull up 1, 2, 3. There it goes. I don't know if you can hear that, but I sure could.
If I had this job to do over again, I would have started with checking pin tension with my front probe test lead kit. We started by piercing the battery feeds and ignition feeds, and never did see a dropout while wiggling the connector. So once we noticed that we had no change there, that showed us that powers were good all the way up to that point where we were piercing at. Next step, we ended up going in and back probing where we still did not see an issue. And I could not recreate the problem again after that, with loss of communication and the change in the way the transmission was attempting to operate, with the louder whining, and like the pump was whining a little bit, almost like it was going, you could tell it was going into limp mode. So we decided that once we had fixed it, that the back probing is what fixed the car, because it created more pin tension on the connector and the pins that we were testing. So we ended up opening the connector, just checking adjusting the pins a little bit more, making sure they were good and had plenty of pin tension on them, and we completed the job by doing that. Reassembled everything and had the customer come back to get their car. There was a couple hours of diagnostic time in this, and we charged for that time. So he unnecessarily had a TECHM installed in this vehicle at the dealership, and it did not fix it. Problem was still there. No communication to the TCM in numerous modules. This is why it's important to do diagnostic testing and charge for diagnostic testing. You can find the real problem and not do unnecessary work and have unnecessary downtime. We completed this job within a day's time. Installing a TECHM is a huge task in this car. It's not very simple. Not a lot of room unless you drop the cradle, which it's not really needed. You can do it in the vehicle. It's just much more work, much more downtime on the vehicle, and it's much more costly, especially when the condition still exists when the job is complete. The dealership also diagnosed this car and said it needed a TECHM, but they were wrong in this case. More testing was needed. As you can see, it was not the TECHM.